Okay, Army man, I'll let you in on some top secret information way before it hits the press. Wait till you hear this.
I'm a Marine. Don't mix us up with the Army.
Okay, a rivalry thing, I gotcha. I've written down some key information. Hope it'll help you out.
What are you gonna do? It's dangerous here.
Hey, I can take care of myself. I've got my story. Why the hell would I want to stay here? I don't want to test my luck any more than I have to. I'll see you around, Sir Marine, sir.
Billed as the first survival horror game on the PlayStation 2, Extermination is very much a product of the console's early lifespan. Somewhat fitting that Tokuro Fujiwara, director of Sweet Home and a producer of the first Resident Evil, was the executive producer here. While those were groundbreaking titles, Extermination is pretty ho-hum. It has its moments, but the execution on its mechanics are lacking. If you're looking for horror titles taking place in Antarctica, the Thing and Code Veronica are far better choices. Still, the game does serve as a fascinating relic of the early days of the PlayStation 2, the transitional period between the 5th to 6th generation of consoles, when best practices of 3D gaming were still emerging. One that took some time for developers to discover the ins and outs of the PlayStation 2.
That didn't sound too good.
It's Christmas Eve 2005. Beyond that, there's no mentions of Christmas at any point in Extermination. US Marines are being sent to Fort Stewart, a secret research facility in Antarctica. They received a distress call from the base a few days back with radio silent synths.
Follow your training and you'll make it back alive. Semper Fi! Go out there and show the world what Marines are made of.
Yes, sir!
We play as Sergeant Dennis Riley. Of all the names I expect a US Marine to have, Dennis is very low on the list. Apologies to any viewers named Dennis. If he were a computer hacker, sure, that's a fitting name. But for a Marine, doesn't feel like a good fit. We enter the base with our teammate Roger, to find the place looking like a battlefield. We'll come across these worm-like creatures that remind me of the ones from Morrowind. Returning to Roger, he meets his end when he's swarmed by these creatures. We get to see firsthand how they can infect humans.
Roger!
Dennis! Help me! Dennis!
How did Roger get into the Marines with shooting like this? A woman in a hazmat suit guns down a mutated Roger and tells us to get out of here.
Please listen to what I'm telling you. Get out of here as soon as you can.
Tell me, what the hell happened here? What happened to my partner?
Wrong place at the wrong time. It wouldn't help even if I told you.
Dennis seems pretty nonchalant over Roger's death.
Roger, I can't believe this.
With that, we need to explore Fort Stewart to find out what happened here. As mentioned, Extermination is an early title of the PlayStation 2 lifespan. On the presentation side, it shows. What we have here is pretty bare bones and a bit bland. The base itself isn't anything to write home about. Since Extermination takes place in Antarctica, it's like Code Veronica in a way, right? Or how about The Thing? And not really. It reminds me more of Shadow Moses from Metal Gear Solid. Reviews and previews of Extermination called it Resident Evil meets Metal Gear Solid, which is fitting. On the Metal Gear Solid front, there's a notable amount of vent crawling here. And speaking of Metal Gear Solid in the year 2001, which Extermination was released, Metal Gear Solid 2 would release a few months after Extermination, a much better showing of what the PlayStation 2 was capable of. And given this time frame of 2001, we're still in the early days of voice acting here, a few years removed from the first Resident Evil. For a survival horror title, there's nothing too bad, but there are some amusing moments.
I have to jump that crevice.
Some dialogue feels a bit disjointed with how it flows at times. Sometimes there's next to no pause between sentences. At other points, there are long pauses, like an inconsistent, overzealous editor at points.
Dennis, is it really just a coincidence that you're here? Regardless, I don't have anything left to say to you. Just leave me alone.
What's notable about Extermination are the differences between the North American and PAL releases. There's different voice actors, different dialogue, and Dennis has a different haircut. Why? I have no clue.
We made these knives for our success in Cambodia. You, me, and Andrew. When times are rough, I look at this and remember that I have good friends. We go way back. We're more than just a unit. Never forget that. Your pain is my pain.
Hey, remember? You, me, and Andrew made these out of shrapnel after that mission in China. You remember the R&R in Bangkok? Huh? Well, when times are rough. Now look at this, and I remember that I've got good friends. We weren't just a team. We were like family. Never forget that. He was my buddy too, you know. I understand.
There's not much to know about the music beyond a few tracks. It's enjoyable, but nothing that's too memorable. A couple of tracks are exceptions. One of these tracks is very annoying. What are they trying to do here? Annoy the player as much as possible? Since I'm emulating here, I thought at first it may have been an emulation issue. Nope, that's just how the track is. There is a way to change the music with a certain gameplay mechanic, which I'll cover later. An annoying mechanic, but I was ready to make use of it to stop listening to this track. On the positive side, you have this one track that's very fluttery. That's the word that comes to mind of describing it. The wind instruments used evoke that feeling of old Star Wars. Several gameplay elements of Extermination exemplify the switch from the 5th to the 6th generation, like how the camera behaves. Camera here isn't fixed. Using L1 will snap the camera behind you. I did have a few cases where the camera got in the way, where I took damage where I felt I shouldn't have. That said, nothing too bad considering this time frame of gaming, a time when developers were still getting a feel for 3D cameras. Fitting for the time, Extermination makes use of an inversion aiming scheme, something you can't change. You can lock onto enemies, but there are times where free aiming is more handy. In regards to inverse controls, when did this change? Was it around Halo 2 that non-inverted became the default for consoles? One of the more interesting features of Extermination is customizing our SPR4. Throughout our travels, we'll pick up more parts for customizing. The primary fire is with 5.56 rounds. We can refill this ammo at stations around the base. We can find secondary fire attachments like a shotgun, a flamethrower, and a grenade launcher. Ammo here is more limited and we'll need to keep an eye out for it. That said, you don't need to kill everything in sight. Ammo management isn't much of an issue in Extermination. One attachment is a light source. We can't move while we shoot. The game could have gotten more out of this. There's a stretch early on in a near pitch black room. You need to use your light to get an idea of where to go. So you have to stop, take a look around, and then proceed, and deal with enemies along the way. There are only a couple of rooms where this is a factor. It's too bad that there aren't more of these types of rooms. They were some of the more tense situations I came across during my playthrough. Something I wish the weapon customization had were custom templates to swap between. That said, there were only a few scenarios where the game pushed me to switch up my layout. Beyond a couple of dark rooms or my secondary fire attachment running out of ammo. Related to weapon customization, I have to compliment how enjoyable the menu is. The way the menu handles reminds me of the dialogue wheel from Mass Effect. I miss the days when menus add a lot of personality to a game. Nowadays, menus tend to be indistinguishable from one another. We'll have a few enemy types to deal with in Extermination. The most common being these worm-like creatures that remind me of Morrowind. Get used to hearing them, they're everywhere. Others have human-like forms and may even pack some firepower against us, Marines who became infected. We'll also deal with turrets, something to shoot to put them out of commission for a time as we pass by. Beyond our gun, we'll have a knife in hand, one that's quite powerful, and the only safe way to remove laser explosive traps. Shooting at these like you would in any other game, that does nothing. Only the power of the knife can disarm them. We can dodge attacks. When in proximity of larger enemies, pressing X causes Dennis to roll. The X button gets plenty of usage depending on context. Pick up items, jump forward, jump up. It depends on our surroundings. This can cause issues, especially in combat. One time I hit X intending to dodge, but Dennis ended up jumping to his demise. Or I wanted Dennis to jump, but he ended up rolling instead. The dodge can trivialize some of the larger enemies, where you can hit X over and over to roll away. Handy in rooms where you want to run instead of fighting. As Extermination progresses, rooms will refill with greater numbers of enemies. Large stretches of the back half have me backtracking through rooms, hitting X over and over to dodge. One thing we have to be aware of in Extermination is getting infected by enemies. It's an interesting idea, but the execution is lacking. Certain enemy attacks will increase our infection percentage. When it reaches 100%, we become infected. Looks like we have a starfish on our back. The music changes. Our max health drops from 100 to 60. The infection pokes away at our health over time. The only way to remove it completely is to use a medical treatment system with a vaccine. There are items we could use to reduce our infection percentage before it hits 100%, but there aren't many. Depending on where you get infected, you may have a long run back to the nearest treatment system. More or less, it's a poison system. It turns into utter tedium and frustration. Get back in time and heal along the way or die. Yes, it's the game punishing you for sloppy play, that's fine. But to have something end up being a glorified poison system, they could have gone in more interesting directions. What if during an infection you could do more damage with a melee attack? What if it allowed you to access areas you couldn't get into otherwise? It's too bad that this is the end result. But hey, getting infected is handy during that stretch where that one annoying music track played. The infected music track is much better. Another element of Extermination that's a good idea with lacking execution is the battery pack. We could use it to power open doors and to save. We could recharge our battery, which tends to be right next to save points. When the game introduced the system, I was thinking, okay, how much am I going to have to keep this in mind? Is this going to be a juggling act? The answer is next to no. To be honest, the way it's set up, that's okay. The last thing you want is to be navigating unexplored territory, only to find you can't open the door because your charge is low. A trek back to the nearest charging system could be annoying padding. What you end up with is a system that's more or less pointless. If you're going to put in something like this, then do something with it. What if you need to charge a door to open, but it would only open X amount of time, so charge? What if we need to find stations to use our battery charge to turn on the lights in the area? That way we could have had more encounters in the dark. As it stands, this system adds little to the experience of Extermination. While the base is pretty drab on the presentation front, it's easy to get a feel for the base. There is backtracking throughout Extermination, with well done pacing. It never feels excessive, and shortcuts open up at the right interval. Good thing it's easy to get a lay of the land because the map sucks here. There's not a lot of detail to it, and the way it's zoomed out when first entering the screen is annoying. Show me my close surroundings first. If I want to see more of the base, I'll zoom out myself. With that, let's go through some of the highlights of the plot of Extermination. Turns out that Dennis knows this woman in the hazmat suit we saw earlier. Her name is Cindy, someone he mentioned in the intro. She and Dennis have a troubled past. Her boyfriend Andrew was a Marine alongside Dennis. He died in battle, saving Dennis. She's held it against him ever since, and Dennis struggles with the guilt. A little different than the ex-lovers now have to survive an ordeal trope. Very common in stories. Dead Space 3 is an example of it. While it does have more personal stakes to the story, it's pretty melodramatic. You could tell it's very much a game from the early 2000s. But hey, at least they take things in a serious manner here and don't quip themselves to death. Another character we'll come across is Travis, a journalist, or so he says. He's the one talking to Dennis in the intro of this video.
Excellent! A perfect shot of our hero who destroyed the monster. You're from Special Forces, right? You came to destroy this facility. I'm Travis Miller, freelance journalist. I've been investigating this facility for 5 years. Something suspicious about this place. I finally managed to sneak in, and all of a sudden, I'm in a horror movie.
There's a bizarre moment where we meet him for the second time. He's in this tiny room. Before we enter this room, a creature pops out of it. How did he hide from it? Not like he had many places to hide in here. And he more or less disappears from the story, unless I miss something with him later on. There's a moment where a steel tower falls over, giving us a path forward. Only a small moment. Would this have been in the game if it came out a few months later, past September 11th? Is what popped to mind with the camera angle used. We'll reunite with our commanding officer in the infirmary.
I was concerned when we lost contact with you. I thought this mission would be a walk in the park for a guy like you. But when you failed to make the rendezvous point, I feared for the worst. You alone?
Roger was with me, but one of those things got him.
They got Roger? He was a true warrior.
Roger!
Dennis!
We need to set off detonators to destroy the facility, giving us our main goal for the game. Next door to the infirmary is the bar. Great placement. Here we get some more melodrama with Cindy.
Didn't I ask you to leave me alone? You just show up here like this. How can I forget about the past with you around? Please, let me forget.
I don't care if you despise me. But on that day, Andrew sacrificed his life to save mine. Now I've sworn to protect yours no matter what happens. I have to. For you and for Andrew.
Sonia, another survivor, has some wise words for Cindy.
I know what you must be feeling. But trying so hard to forget the past is just going to make things worse.
What are you talking about?
As long as you're trying to forget, you won't be forgetting at all. You don't have to forget. You don't even have to forgive. Instead, try putting yourself in his shoes and accept the situation. You'll feel a lot better. It must be hard for him, too.
What's notable about this bar is its name, Swery 65. Yep, Mr. Deadly Premonition himself worked as a director on Extermination, although not on the writing end. I'm curious what he would have added to the story. Too bad Sonia doesn't last long in the story.
Sonia. I can't tell Cindy, no way. It would be too much for her right now.
Why not tell Cindy about her, Dennis? Would you rather have her walk out of this area and discover Sonia like that right next to the door? So what's going on here in Extermination? What's with all these creatures? Well, there's notes we'll find about this bacteria HO213. It came from a meteor that crashed on Earth tens of thousands of years ago. Jan Falken, head of research, has been researching HO213 for years. It's the cause of these mutations we come across. One of the other Marines we'll reunite with is Gary.
Cindy, can you take care of Gary?
No problem.
Gary, are you going to be okay?
It hurts a little, but it's nothing a kiss from an angel wouldn't heal.
What's with this haircut? Or did someone draw that on the back of his head? I mean, there were odd hairstyles at this time, but X's on the back of your head? Even a bad zoomer haircut wouldn't go that far. Later on, we'll have a fight with an infected Roger. You know, for his infection, they could have introduced a fearsome enemy type to deal with down the line, instead of getting jobbed out to a handful of worms.
What I want to know is how come a tough guy like you let some bacteria eat him for lunch? Roger!
Dennis!
Dennis!
Turns out there are government bodies at conflict with one another over this place. One part wants to destroy the space to remove the threat of HO213, another part wants to get its hands on it.
It could lead to the destruction of mankind. The HO213 has been on Earth for a very long time, but it's been lying dormant. An inheritance from the distant past. This inheritance has become the biggest secret our country has ever kept.
Biggest secret?
They sent an agent so that our country could monopolize this micro-apocalypse that could end all life on our world.
We'll get to meet Jan Falken after reading all his research notes throughout the base. Too bad he only gets a brief in-person appearance because he's got that goofy mad scientist energy, something that would have been welcome throughout the game.
I am Dr. Falcon. You might say I'm its father.
Okay, Doctor. So what is that thing?
It's a stray lamb. It drifted through space and came to our planet 60,000 years ago. And it's alive. I've captured the first living extraterrestrial life form known to man.
It's obvious he hasn't gone out much with how he talks about the origin of the bacteria.
Oh, beautiful. Are you cold, my son? I tried to raise the reactor core temperature for you, but these stupid Marines got in the way. I can't let you do that. I'll kill you if it will save my precious. I'll do anything to save him, to save my baby. I'll do it for the love of my son.
Crazy bastard.
Now look, you've made him angry. He doesn't like you and your petty insults.
I guess he didn't like you as much as you liked him.
Setting the base to explode, we escape on a boat with Cindy and Gary. But Gary, where's Gary? Well, he decides to sit out on the final boss fight.
If it isn't our alien friend. Looks like a father and son reunion. Guess what? It's time to finish both of you.
What follows is a pretty ho-hum fight where you shoot the Origin over and over and over with the turret, and then some more. And then in its final form, it does a half-assed impression of Dennis. Of course, Gary likes to show up right after the fight is over.
Gary, you're alive. I was worried.
Hey, I'm invincible. Tough guys like me don't go down easy, you know.
Where were you?
I heard a noise and came out on deck. That giant shrimp grabbed me and threw me overboard. Luckily, my leg got caught in a rope before I hit the water.
And the melodrama between Cindy and Dennis wraps up. Cindy forgives Dennis about her boyfriend Andrew dying to save him. What follows is one of the most bizarre song choices I've heard for the credits.
Well then, let's go inside. It's cold out here.
Thank you.
Candy girl, you are the sweetest candy girl. My sugar baby candy girl, the sweetest in the world.
I have so many questions about this song choice. Did Swery have a say in this? It's a memorable ending as a result, if not all for the right reasons. And so ends Extermination, a game that shows promise and has its moments, but doesn't exactly stick the landing. Still, it's a fascinating title from the early days of the PlayStation 2, a system that would go on to put out classic after classic on the regular. Some of survival horror's finest hours would have billing on the system. Some, like Silent Hill 2, not long after the release of Extermination. Ones that were much better showing of the genre and what the system had to offer. Some of the staff here on Extermination would move on to put out notable titles. As of writing, some of which we'll be looking into soon. Thanks for watching.
Did you see that, Zach? Clear as a crisp spring morning. F.K. in the coffee. I knew I could count on it. Never fails.